Hi, this is a video to go over how I fixed this Klipsch subwoofer, model number KSW-10. This is a 55 watt continuous power, 225 watt dynamic power unit. I received it from somebody who said it would just shut down on them all the time after running for a little bit. I couldn't even get any sound out of it. I couldn't get the front LED to turn green. It just would stay red when I turned it on and that sort of thing. So I took it apart and did some research on it. I'll show you what I found. First of all, we'll get the circuit board out of the unit. Always make sure things are unplugged before you start messing around with circuits in these types of units. And if you're not familiar with electronics and electricity, probably want to avoid doing this work. Definite risk of shock and death and that kind of stuff. So, but I pulled these screws out. It's just these around the perimeter. You pull all the screws around on the perimeter of this board, and then sorry about the video here. The circuit board comes right out, but be very gentle and slow with it because there's two wires attached on the inside that you need to take off. This is for the LED in the front for the on-off indication light. You just wiggle it off the circuit board, it'll come off. Just do it gently. And then there's this connector here, which is for the speaker itself. That's what drives the speaker. And just wiggle that off. There might be glue on here that you'll need to cut in order to get that off. So just something to be aware of. Now, when you pull one of these off and you are doing some inspection on it, trying to figure out what's wrong, first thing that you can look for is like a overheating of the board. The research I did found that other people had problems with this power supply unit. This is your this is your transformer, and to lower the voltage, which comes into here. So this is kind of the power supply section of the board, and that darkness in the board here is an overheating issue with some of the components. So I'll turn my zoom on a little bit and my light. So what you want to look for, or what I'll tell you what I found anyway, were that there were bad capacitors in this unit. So let me show you the circuit board. This is the schematic that somebody online had drawn up. I can't guarantee this is 100% accurate, but I found that this capacitors 35, 38, 36, and then C12 were all bad in this unit. Once I replaced all of them, it started working fine. So I'll show you where those capacitors are. And in addition, some people found problems with these diodes as well, as D5 and D4, and even these big capacitors. But as far as what I found, I'll show you what I found and where they're located. Back over to the circuit board. So the capacitors I found that were bad were these two here, this one and this one. And then the other one was C38. Yeah, C38. which is, if I get the focus going here, see this one right back here, that one right there, that was bad. And then C12, which is in the back of the unit, which is this gold one right there. So those are the 4 capacitors I found are bad. Other people found that these were bad, and some people found that the diodes, these Zener diodes down in here, were bad. But you can see that this circuit board's all dark in here, and that's just a sign that things were overheating, the components were failing and overheating. And yeah, so I replaced almost all the capacitors on this entire board just because I was in here anyway, and they're not that expensive. The only ones I didn't replace were these 2 big ones, which I had a hard time finding direct replacements for, and then this C9. There's a total of 19 electrolytic style capacitors, and I replaced all but those 3 with a bunch of Nichicon high-grade audio capacitors. So, and now the unit's working fine. Green light comes on. It has no problems. So you might be wondering how I tested the capacitors. I just have a real cheap unit. This thing probably cost me $25, and I'll show you how it works here. You just insert a capacitor in here, clamp it down, hit the test start, and it'll give you, see, so this is 480 nanofarads, so that's 0.48 microfarads and 150 ohms of resistance. So this thing shouldn't have more than a couple, about 2 ohms of resistance. And it's reading at half of its capacity, because this is a 1 microfarad. It was reading at half of that. So this is definitely bad. And these are the other capacitors that went bad. So yeah, that's what I did. I replaced those. Again, if you're not familiar with electronics, I wouldn't recommend really getting into it. You gotta be safe with this stuff. You could really get hurt if you don't know what you're doing. But if you're willing to do it, you can do it safely, I'd recommend it. It wasn't that hard. The circuit's not that complicated, and it's easy to take out and desolder the parts and replace them. I got my parts off of DigiKey, and I think I spent maybe $10 on them total for all those capacitors. So there you go. Thanks for viewing.